Picture the one field the whole village prays to forget. And now picture the boy who was left it on purpose. This is how that boy took the most cursed thing in his country and made every lamp in it burn on his name. Other boys are born to fathers who own land. He is born to a father who owns a curse. 11 acres of it, and every year less of it is worth owning. A black ooze rises through the soil in slow stinking tones. The spring the boy turns 9, the seep begins in earnest. Slow like sweat, dark, oily, climbing out of the ground on its own. Wherever it touches the earth, nothing green ever grows there again. By the time he is 12, the family has lost the east field entirely. The low field by the creek is gone with it. Half the south slope has surrendered to the same black shimmer. 3 fields lost, and the well is going with them. The water comes up with an oily skin, tasting of rot and iron. Old Hannah loses a cow to that water one summer morning. After that, the village stops calling it bad luck. They give it a name now, whispered at the smithy door. The Vorn curse, they call it, quiet enough that no one has to answer for the word. The black blood of the ground come up to take back what it gave. His mother refuses to say the word aloud in the house. She counts instead. Sacks in the cellar, eggs from the hens, coins in a clay jar. Every count is smaller than the last, and she does not tell him so. At the smithy, the men have already decided what the family is. The Vorn farm is finished, they say between themselves at dusk. They cannot see how a thing already dead can be argued back to life. The autumn he turns 12, his father walks to town and sells the iron plow. He comes back without the plow, and without enough coin to matter. 8 marks for it. The father tells the mother that night in a low voice. The boy lies still in the loft above them, pretending to be asleep. They owed the storekeeper Maddox 11 marks against the harvest. Maddox took the 8 and wrote the rest forward as a new debt. A debt written forward is a debt that grows in the dark. Next harvest Maddox will want it back with interest, and the fields will be fewer by then, his mother says, quieter still. Fewer, she says again, as if the word might break in her mouth. The boy stares up at the black rafters and does not think about a curse. The village sees a judgment falling on his father's name. He sees a thing that does something to the ground it touches, and a thing that does something can be made to do something useful. He has no words for that thought, but he has the habit of it. The habit is older than the seep, older than the debt. He has always made things, useless things, his father calls them. By every measure his father owns, his father is right. When he was 7, he dammed the creek with clay and willow brush. He lay on his belly for hours to watch the water climb the wall. A hand's width, too, a whole forearm before the brush finally gave. He rebuilt it 3 times, learning something on each collapse. The 3rd time he saw that brush laid against the current packed the clay tighter. That wall held for the full days before the creek chewed through. He was not proud of the wall itself. He wanted the why of it, the reason it held longer than the last. Other boys wanted the thing. He wanted the why, and the difference would decide his whole life. Change one part. Watch. Keep the change that mattered. It is the only teacher he will ever really need. So, when the black seep pools everywhere the village dreads to walk, he is only curious. That single difference is going to cost him a beating before winter. The seep pools in a low black corner of the dead east field, skin with an oily shimmer that catches the light like a broken mirror. He crouches at its edge the way he once crouched at his dam. He pokes it with a stick, and the stick comes out slick and dripping. He drops the stick into a rain puddle beside the pool to see. The black floats on the water and refuses to mix with it. It skins the rainwater with the same oily shimmer above the clear. That is the first interesting thing he has learned, and he tastes it like coin. It sits on top of water. It does not sink into it. He carries the blackened stick past the cook fire where one coal still glows. On a whim, he touches the black end to the ember to see what will happen. The flame blooms white and yellow and runs up the stick faster than his hand can pull back. Then it steadies, bright and smoking gray, burning far longer than wood should. He drops the stick and stamps it out, heart pounding against his ribs. It burns. The curse burns. He has to know now whether water will stop it. The whole village pours water on what it fears, and the seep laughs at their wells. He pushes the stick down into the puddle and lifts it streaming, touches it to the coal, and the wet black lights just as eagerly as dry. Wet, it lights. A drop of the black falls onto the puddle and burns there, riding on the water itself. A tiny flame drifting on the surface, refusing to drown. Water does not take it, he says out loud, alone in the yard. The way you say a thing to make it stay in your head. He keeps a broken roofing slate and a nub of charcoal in the barn. On the slate he writes the things nobody else has any use for. To finding side by side, black burns, water no. They are his, nobody else in the village knows them. Then the greed pulls him, the way it always will pull him. If the black burns long, it could light the house through the winter. And they are short on light more than they are short on almost anything. His mother sews by the dying fire and ruins her eyes each night. Candles cost coin, and coin is the one crop this farm grows nothing of. So he makes a lamp the way he makes everything, badly and eagerly. A shard of crockery, a twist of rag, a finger of the black seep in the dish. It catches, and it gives more light than a candle ever did. And it gives that light far longer, because the black does not burn down like wax. It also smokes like a tar fire and stinks of pitch and rot. It leaves greasy soot on every shelf near it, and his mother coughs. She asks him, please, to put the dreadful thing out for the night. He does, but he has already seen the two halves of what he holds. The lamp makes long, cheap light, and it is filthy while it does it. The light is real, and the filth is the problem, and problems can be solved. On the slate beside the first two findings, he writes for new words. Make it burn clean. He thinks it is a chore for a rainy Tuesday. He does not know he has written the sentence that will build an empire. The trouble comes from the barn a week later, at dusk. He has borrowed a real iron pan from the kitchen shelf without asking. He has learned that more black in the pan makes more flame. He carries the burning pan into the barn to read the seed almanac by his own light. He sets the pan on the edge of the feed bin and leans close over the page. He does not think about the straw at his feet, or the black on his fingers. A wisp of straw touches the flame and is gone in an instant. Then the edge of the feed bin is alight, where his fingers smeared it. A low blue-white run of fire chases along the wood grain toward the wall. He beats at it with the almanac and his coat and his own shouting. For 3 of the longest seconds of his life, he is certain he has killed them all. It is his father who puts it out, running across the yard with a horse blanket, smothers the bin, stamps the straw, beats the last flame with the boot heel. When the last coal is cold, he turns and looks at his son. And the boy has never seen his father afraid before that moment. The fear is the thing that does it, more than any belt. The father takes him by the collar, voice gone flat and quiet. What were you doing, boy? It makes light, Pa. It burns long. I was only trying to see. It was burning my barn, the father says, shaking. There are 11 acres dying under us, he says. And you light fires in the one building that still has a good roof. He takes off his belt then, slow and deliberate. Useless, he says, in a voice the boy will hear inside his skull for the rest of his life. You make useless things, and now they will kill us all. The boy takes the beating in the barn he nearly burned down. Afterward the father finds the slate in the straw where it fell. He does not read the crooked letters, or he cannot. He throws it hard into the yard, and the boy hears the slate crack on a stone. The boy finds it before dawn, crawling in the dew on his hands. The slate has split clean between water no, and make it burn clean. Question and finding cut apart by his father's hand. He fits the 2 pieces together in his palm. They still make the sentence when they touch. He keeps them both always. The end comes faster than any of them are counting on that autumn. His father takes to working the dead east field by hand with a mattock. Because they have no plow, and because he cannot bear to look and not fight. He breaks the poison clods all day in air that smells of pitch and rot. The same air his mother makes the boy come inside from at the first cough. The father comes in gray and short of breath, day after day. The mother stops moving her lips when she looks at him across the table. That is how the boy learns to be afraid without a name for the fear. The cough takes his father in 3 weeks. A wet cough that will not clear. A man growing smaller at the table. Until the morning he cannot get up from the pallet to walk anywhere at all. They have no coin for a doctor, and he has known that for years. The one time his mother walks the road for a doctor, the man is honest. It is the lungs, he says, the bad air off the ground itself. Nothing in his bag they could afford, and nothing that would help if they could. The father dies on the gray ground he was trying to save. The neighbor men dig kindly enough, the kind of kindness given to the finish. Maddox the storekeeper comes out personally, hat in hand, before the grave is filled. He is not a wicked man, only a man with a ledger and a debt to name. Your father owed me, son, he says gently. The debt stands whether he stands or not, and the farm is the only thing against it. Maddox looks at the dead fields, at the shimmer in the low corner, and does not finish. No one will buy cursed ground, not for any price a man could offer. So here is how it will be, the storekeeper says in his softest voice. The boy and his mother keep the house and the bit of living ground by the lane. The rest is theirs, free and clear, and welcome to it, because it is worth less than nothing to any man who might otherwise take it. And there is the joke that goes around the smithy by nightfall. Old Vorn worked himself into the ground over that field, and his boy has been left the curse itself as an inheritance. The only thing not even a creditor would stoop to claim on his ledger. Tall the smith is the only man in the smithy who does not laugh at the joke. What he thinks he keeps behind his beard. The boy stands at the edge of the black corner on his own dead ground. The cracks laid against his chest like a small hidden bone. The whole village wants land without the black in it. He has been left the one field where there is more of it than anywhere in the county. Everybody wants the land without it, he says out loud to the cold air. And I got left the land with the most of it. It is not a triumph. He is 12, and he has just buried his father. But the question has him, and will not let go. And that is enough for now. 6 years pass on his cursed ground, and he counts them the way his mother counts corn. Not in seasons, but in what he has learned, one small finding at a time. The first thing he needs is proper words for the things in his hands. The names live in books, and books cost coin he does not have. The traveling apothecary carries a brass balance scale with a bent beam. No 1 in 3 villages can true it. The boy can. He strips the pivot, files the bearing square, sets the beam plumb. He hands it back swinging level, and the apothecary forgets his usual sharpness. The boy asks for one thing off the cart. He chooses carefully. A water-stained book with half its spine gone, a primer of practical chemistry. He reads it the way he rebuilds a dam, 1 page 3 times sounding out. It takes him a whole winter to work through 40 of its faded pages. In those 40 pages he finds a single word that changes everything. Distillation. Liquids boil at different heats and leave a mixture in a particular order. Heat a mixture, and the part that boils easiest leaves first as a vapor. Catch that vapor, cool it, and it turns back to liquid, cleaner than it was. He has seen this thing before. Old Pell makes spirits behind his barn. Mash in a copper pot, coil through cold water, a slow drip out the far end. If heat can pull spirit from mash and leave the water, then why not the black? The black is a mixture too. He has seen it burn 3 different ways. There must be a part that leaves first, a part that leaves last, a part that burns clean. He builds his still the way Pell built his from whatever Tal will give him. A small cast iron cook pot with a brazed crack down its side. Thin copper tubing bent slow round a post, packed with sand so it does not kink flat. They seal the pot's lid tight and run the coil through a barrel of creek water. Pot to boil the black, coil to cool the vapor, jar to catch the drip. Every piece has one job, and he can say what each job is out loud. He fails 3 good times, and each failure teaches him what the book could not. The first time he builds the fire to hot and to open beneath the pot. The black flashes. Vapor finds the lid seam and lights off the cook fire with a whump. It throws him onto his back and takes his eyebrows and the front of his hair. Lesson: heat it slow, gentle. Keep the flame away from where the vapor can find it. The second time his seams leak and the vapor whispers out through the gaps. He learns to seal seams with a paste of clay and rye dough packed wet into every joint. The third time everything runs beautifully and he catches every drop in one jar. What he has is a cloudy, reeking, yellow-brown liquid worse than the raw seep. Then he sees his mistake, and it is the most important lesson of his 6 years. Different parts come over at different heats, in a particular order. But catching it all in one jar, he had unseparated the very thing he was separating. He does it again, and this time he swaps jars as the run progresses. Early, while the pot barely ticks, a thin, clear liquid comes over fast and light. A stray spark catches it with a snap and a flare that scares him across the yard. He caps it and sets it well apart from any flame that could reach it again. On the slate he writes it. First off, light, jumps to fire, danger. He does not know what it is good for. He knows it nearly took his hand twice. Then, as the heat climbs and steadies into a settled boil, the drip changes. What comes over now is heavier, golden, oily clear, at a calm and even pace. He sets a spark to a wet wick of it, and it burns. Tall, bright, steady, with almost no smoke at all. After 6 years of filthy black light, he sits in the dark holding a nearly clean flame. He does not move for a long time. This is the middle piece he has been chasing. He names it plainly on the slate. Lamp oil from rock. Kerosene. Last, hottest. The drip thickens to a dark clinging tar, and he pulls the fire. 3 parts, light first, kerosene middle, tar last. Catch the middle. The kerosene is cleaner than the raw seep, but still not clean enough. The book talks of washing liquids with acid, so he trades for oil of vitriol. A few drops stirred in, muck drops to the bottom, top runs clearer. Now sour, he washes it with lime made from wood ash and creek water. Then he trickles the whole through charcoal and clean clay, and it comes out pale. Acid, then lye, then charcoal and clay. Written down so he can do it again. The heat itself he learns to read by ear when the pot mutters and by eye when the drip changes. From a singed boy with a slate to a young man with a method he can repeat. On Toll's workbench sits a stoppered bottle of pale honey-colored liquid. It burns brighter and cleaner than anything in his village has ever set flame to. And there is the cruelty of it. Nobody outside the shed knows the oil is real. And the seep gives him puddles, never barrels. You have made the thing, Tal says, quiet inside his beard. Now you have to get the muck out of the ground faster than it wants to come. But first the burning has to become the thing men will fight to buy. Because a liquid that burns is not the same thing as a lamp. He learns it in his shed with a crockery dish and a rag wick. Ugly, a ragged orange tongue, gray coils of smoke, a dish too hot to touch. Nobody pays for an ugly flame in a chip dish, no matter how bright. So he fixes the burning one fault at a time, refusing to move on. The first fault is the smoke. Fat and starved of air deep in the dish, clean at the tip. More air, less smoke. Tal solders him a tin font with a ring of holes low around the base. Air drawn up through them, around the wick from below, and the smoke thins by half. The second fault is the wick. A round twist chars unevenly and drowns in oil. One evening he feeds a flat strip of cloth down into the font by accident. It burns along a clean even line, a wide steady flame instead of a point. Flat, not round. Tal makes a narrow slot and fits a little tooth wheel against it. Turn it up, the wick pushes higher and the room brightens. Turn it down, it dims. The first time he sits turning his own light up and down with a fingertip, he laughs. The third fault is the wind. The smallest draft, and the flame staggers and throws soot. And a naked flame near a font of oil is a barn fire waiting to be born. The flame has to be wrapped in something that lets the light out. There is a glass blower to town over the ridge, in a shop he has only heard of. He walks the day there with his best lamp lit under his coat. When he sets it burning on the glass blower's bench, the man stops his work at the furnace. He asks for a chimney, a tube of thin clear glass open at both ends. The glass blower blows him one on the spot with a few quick breaths of skill. They drop it hot over the flame, and the young man watches with held breath. The flame goes still, then climbs the glass as the draft catches from below. The glass draws air upward past the flame in a steady rush of its own making. The light brightens and steadies and stops smoking almost entirely inside the tube. He stands staring at a flame that does not flinch when the door opens on the wind. He is no longer holding an experiment. He is holding a lamp. He does the sums on the walk home the way his mother does corn. A candle, dim, guttering, gone in an hour. Whale oil, cleaner, but dearer and dearer every season. His lamp, the steady light of 10 candles behind glass, all evening on pennies of oil. That is not a better candle. That is the end of the candle if he can make enough. He makes 3 lamps with Tal and carries them to town, to Hartley the storekeeper. Hartley lets him set one on the counter at dusk, mostly to be rid of him. Then the lamp does the arguing on its own, without a word from the young man. Hartley's whole dim store leans into that circle of clean white light. A customer stops in the doorway to look, and Hartley goes very quiet. Real coins are pressed into his hand. Bring oil to refill them, Hartley says. Bring more lamps. He does the arithmetic that night, and the coin left over is on the right side of the line. For the first time in his family's ledger for as long as he has lived. Then Hartley makes the offer that is the real test, without knowing it is one. He will buy the whole thing outright. Recipe, method, everything in coin today. Enough to clear the Maddox debt and feed his mother through a full winter. Tal is for taking it. Take the coin, boy. Your mother is hungry today. Everything practical in him agrees, and he tells Hartley no. He does not fully understand why standing there, except that he felt the shape once, the day Maddox said cursed ground was worth less than nothing. Everyone sees a recipe to sell. He is starting to see the only thing he will ever truly own. If he sells the method, he is a man who once invented a lamp. If he keeps it, he is the man the lamp comes from forever, wherever it burns. Sell you oil and lamps gladly. The method is not for sale. Then he does the thing that turns a stubborn no into a plan he can walk. He will go to the capital and have the method written down as his in law. A patent, a word he read off the apothecary's book 3 times over. Weeks of walking, and the still cold in the shed, and hungry on purpose. Tal shakes his head and forges him a tighter travel stopper for the sample bottle. Which is how Tal says he understands and disagrees at once. He is packing the sample lamp in straw when the news comes up the road. A peddler from the east, a manufacturer in one of the great cities, is turning out lamps. By the crate, meant for a cheap burning oil no one has settled on yet. Because whale oil has gone so dear across the whole country in 2 seasons. A nation full of dark rooms and a rising hunger for cheap patient light. He stands in the yard with the news settling on him like snow. The market is enormous. He has the cleanest light and the cheapest oil. And it is only his if he can pour kerosene into it by the barrel, not the bottle. The seep gives him puddles, until he takes the black by force. Every dark window belongs to someone else. He walks the capital's noise like a farm boy in road dust with a folder of drawings. The patent clerk stops being bored when he reads. He files the claims and blots the ink. You will want to mind yourself. The clerk says quietly, not looking up. Serious men in the city take an interest. They will have heard your name before you reach home. He walks out with his papers under his arm, a name and a ledger important people read. Back home, he sits at the edge of the black corner and stops looking at the pool. He starts looking at the why of it, the shape of the thing under his feet. He remembers the year his father dug the new well, and the black climbed up into it. Not across the surface, up. Under pressure of its own, pushing wherever the ground opens. He does not need to wait for the seep. He needs to open the ground and let it climb. He needs a hole, deep, deeper than any well in the county. He starts the stupid way because it is the obvious way. He digs a wide pit at the blackest spot. It fails before he is chest deep. Walls slump, groundwater seeps in. The black mixes with the mud into a filthy soup. He does not want a pit. He wants a hole narrow and deep, with sides that cannot fall in. He will punch down, not dig out. If digging fails, he will beat. Tall, and he build a machine to drop a weight on one spot over and over. 3 long poles lashed into a tripod, a stout rope over the apex. A long heavy iron bit, blunt and chisel-edged at its foot, that Tall forges most carefully. They haul it up through a crude windlass, and let it fall the full height. The chisel foot smashes into the ground with the flat chalk he feels in his teeth. Haul, drop, each fall the bit bites a little deeper. Every so often they clean, with a bailer made from pipe and a hinged leather flap. Drop it, the flap opens, the muck floods in. Lift it, the flap slams shut and holds. Near a foot a day through soft ground, less through hard pan. He keeps the tally on the slate, a number that only ever grows. Then the same enemy that beat the pit comes back deeper. The sides cave. Groundwater bleeds in, and his beating turns to mud churning. Then he sees it is the same problem, and a new coat. Keep the walls up, keep the water out. Line the hole as they go. They drive iron pipe down behind the bit as it deepens. Casing that holds the walls no earth ever could, and shuts the wet ground out. The bottom is kept clean and dry for the bit to strike into fresh stone below. They beat past the depth of any well the county has ever sunk. He is almost out of rope and entirely out of coin when the bit on a downstroke does not chock. It drops, it falls through into something soft, rope going slack in his hand. They haul up the bailer. It comes up not with rock paste, but heavy and black and slick, brimming with the thing itself, pulled up out of a layer of it far below. While they stand staring, the hole itself begins to give it up. The black climbs the inside of the casing, rising on its own pressure. The seep gave him a cart bed pool over days. This well gives him barrels in a single day. Not a better puddle. The end of the puddle. The beginning of everything else. Pressure fades, so he makes one more machine, a pump inside the casing. The whole trick is the valves, and the whole trick of the valves is leather. A flap in the piston, a flap below. Both open upward, seal soft where iron would grind. Downstroke, piston sinks past the oil. Upstroke, it lifts the column above. A walking beam on a seesaw pivot lets a man rock the piston without breaking his back. The black comes up in steady surges, stroke after stroke, into his waiting barrel. Marcus hears of it before the first barrel is full. Marcus, whose family has wanted the Vornland sheep for as long as anyone remembers. He watches the tripod rise and fall from the fence and gets the wrong idea. He thinks the young man has found a strike, a treasure any fool could reach with a spade. He does not see 6 years of distilling or a fortnight learning to case a bore. He sees black money coming out of dirt. He thinks the dirt is the whole secret. So Marcus buys the ground next door and hires a gang of men on day wages. Sets them to dig wide open pits, the very thing that defeated the young man on his first afternoon. The ground teaches Marcus the same lesson. Walls slump. Water comes. Pits fill with filth. He has no still to clean even that, because he never thought past the digging. The treasure is not in the dirt. It is in knowing what to do with the dirt. And that is the one thing Marcus cannot buy off the young man for any price. The young man lets Marcus bleed a wet month at the fence. Then he comes with an offer that is only fair, given the numbers. He takes the useless seed ground off Marcus at what it is worth to a man who cannot work it, which is to say at the debt Marcus has run up learning the ground beats him. Marcus sells him the land sheep, exactly the way Marcus's family always meant to do to him. And the wrongness of which way the deal runs is not lost on either man. Now he is black by the barrel, and the bottleneck moves again as it always does. His little still cannot boil in a month what the well yields in a day. He has to stop thinking like a man with a kettle and start thinking like a man building a works. The fire first. One pot on one fire is the whole ceiling. He wants one source of heat feeding many vessels together, steam. A boiler, a single furnace, steam piped out to do work wherever he sends it. His first boiler nearly kills him. Seams groan, the tank swells, it splits with a bang and a scald. The lesson old boiler men paid for in lives long before him. A closed vessel of steam must be given a way to let go before it lets go on its own. The next boiler carries a weighted lever over a vent, a safety valve. When the push inside grows to great, the weight lifts, the steam hisses off, the weight drops back. After that, the boiler holds and breathes and does not try to kill him again. Now a battery of great riveted iron retorts, each holding many barrels, set in a long row over a brick flue that carries the boiler's fire heat beneath them all. 10 retorts charged together do in one run what the kettle did in 10. Vapor from all of them runs to a single great condenser, a coil sunk in cold flowing water. He digs a channel from the creek on a downhill fall, so the water runs by itself. Flowing water carries heat off. Standing water only turns warm and useless. Every trough on a slope, the fractions run from still to condenser to tank by gravity. No man carrying a bucket anywhere on the ground of the new works, ever again. The reading of the heat, taught as a plain routine any trained crew can follow. As the heat climbs, the drip is switched among receiving tanks by the thermometer. Light first, to its own tanks well apart from any spark or open flame. Then the golden kerosene, into the great central tank at the heart of the works. Then hottest and last, the heavy stuff, to a third tank, a thick dark oil set aside. The washing scales up to acid vats, then lye vats, then beds of charcoal and clay. A steady amber stream comes off the end of the line into barrel after barrel. His kettle used to make a few barrels in a hard week. The works, running, makes that in a single day between dawn and dusk. Not a better kettle. The end of the kettle, the way the lamp was the end of the candle. Because now there are men, a dozen, then a score, then more, and books to keep. He is a maker, not a keeper of accounts, and the ledger is fighting him, which is how Mirren comes to work for him, and to save his hide from himself. The daughter of a merchant whose business failed because her father was too kind. She grew up keeping his books and watching them not be enough. She comes asking after a wash-hand's wage, plain-dressed and plain-spoken. In 10 minutes waiting in his office, she reads his ledger without permission, and tells him without warmth exactly where he is bleeding coin, and that he is closer to ruin than he lets himself think. She is not wrong on a single count. He hires her on the spot. They do not get on easily, and that is the whole point of her at his elbow. She is hard where he is soft. She counts where he dreams. Sentiment is not a column she can balance. He does not like half of what she says. Almost all of it is true, and he keeps her because of it. One problem the works hands him daily. The light fraction accumulates. Too wild to burn in a lamp. Too dangerous to store in quantity. Mirren wants it gone. He agrees it must go. They pour it into a waste pit and burn it off. He watches a tank of the clear light fraction flare white-orange one evening. Something turns over in the back of his mind. He does not chase the thought. He lets the useless thing burn. He has a works to run. The real wall is money. Growth eats coin. And the market is opening faster than he can build. Then a man comes to the works in a coat worth more than his first year's profit. Holloway, a banker, a financier, a name he has heard whispered in the capital. The kind of money that builds railways and owns mills across whole provinces. He admires the works with the ease of a man who has admired 100 before buying them. He speaks of capital, of building across the country together, in partnership. Mirren walks him out to the road after the carriage rolls away. He is not a partner, she says, flat as a closed ledger. Men like that do not partner. He swallows men like you and spits out the pits. Holloway squeezes before he ever makes his offer, just to show the hand. The price of vitriol jumps. A timber contract of 2 years is suddenly not renewed. Nothing to point at, just the slow tightening of every supply he needs. When Holloway comes back the second time, the young man already knows in his stomach. He will buy a large share of the Vorn Oil Works, not all, only enough to matter. In return, money enough to build 10 years of growth in one, and clear every debt. You are a brilliant maker. You are not a businessman. Let me carry the part you are bad at, and we grow together. Everything in him wants to refuse. Mirren's hand on the doorframe says refusing changes nothing. So he stops looking at the fight offered and looks at the why beneath it. Why does Holloway want it at all? Not for buildings. Not for wells. Anyone can build. He wants in because the Vorn oil is the cleanest kerosene anyone makes, and no other man can make it. The value is not in iron. The value is in craft, and the craft lives in his head and on a patent with his name on it. Not in any building Holloway can put his hand around. Once he sees that, he stops being afraid, and he offers a narrower deal. Dressed so the narrowness looks like generosity to a hungry money man. Holloway may have a fat share of the profits, more than he expected to be given. His money builds the plants. His name may go on the company at large. The single clause Mirren and he whirred through a long night. The patent and process are licensed, not sold. The young man remains the only man who holds the method. The company's right to use it runs through him, and only through him, forever. Holloway's lawyers see a startling profit given away, and one odd little clause. They take the clause for a maker's vanity. Let the boy keep his name on the paper. They think the money is the thing they sign. Money men always think that. Holloway's capital floods in. They build new wells and batteries into more towns. For a season they are partners, and it works. Holloway is pleased with his bargain. Holloway is not pleased for long. It gnaws at him that the company must come to a farmer's son for the right to make its own product. So he does the thing the young man expected. He decides to make Vorn oil without Vorn, in a plant where he holds the larger hand. Chemist with city diplomas, brought in to copy the process from the outside. He has the crude and the apparatus. He is everything but the craft. His men run the stills to hot and to fast, greedy for output at the wrong heat. The cuts run together. Light fraction bleeds into the kerosene where it must not go. They skimp the wash because acid and slow filtering eat the margin Holloway loves. What comes off their line looks like kerosene. It is not. It is kerosene laced with the wild light stuff the young man has spent years keeping out. The lamps tell the tale. Into houses a font goes up in flame and there is a fire. Then one of Holloway's own plants catches a spark and burns to the ground in a night. No clause did that. Chemistry did that. The chemistry the young man bled to master. Holloway comes back a third time, and there is no smile now. There is a man who has set fire to his own money and needs the one thing he cannot buy. The young man does not gloat. Mirren does enough of that quietly for both. He simply sets the new terms, and they are his now. The process stays wholly with him. Run only his way, by men trained to his standard. Any plant that bears the company name burns oil cut and washed to his method, or it does not run at all. Holloway keeps a share of a company worth far less, climbing back only because the young man pulls it. Cleverness beat capital. The craft beat the cash exactly as he planned. And yet he sits in the office after the carriage is gone and counts what the victory cost. A fat share of profits he will pay out as long as the company lives. Tied to a man who tried to get him, and winning the duel does not untie the knot. He is wealthy in a way the boy on the curse field could not have imagined. And he is, for the first time, not his own master. Mirren drops the morning paper on his table. The city writers call him the oil wonder of Arkan, the farm boy who lit the nation, the marvel of the age. She has not put it down for the praise. She taps a small column low on the page. A notice from across the sea. An engineer there has built an engine that moves itself, that burns fuel inside itself and turns wheels under its own power, without a horse or a rail. A clever toy, the writer calls it, with one flaw the inventor cannot solve. The oil they feed it, kerosene, lamp oil, is too heavy. It will not flash inside the engine. He reads it twice. The engine wants something lighter, something that flashes, something eager, something that burns awfully hot for its weight. He has tanks of exactly that. He has been pouring it into a pit for 2 years. The man who builds the future arrives at his gate a week later, covered in grease. A dead engine in the back of a cart, and a lean, burning-eyed young man beside it. Edric, come a long way to find the oil wonder of Arkan. He talks about the engine the way the young man once talked about the seep, like it is the only interesting thing in the world. An engine that explodes fuel within the cylinder to shove the piston over and over. No boiler, no furnace, no water. Small enough for a carriage or a boat. The young man understands within minutes that he is looking at something that will change the world, more than his lamp ever did, and it is aimed like a loaded gun straight at him. Every fortune built on lighting the dark rests on one use of one fraction. The moment the world finds a better use for oil than a lamp, the lamp king is yesterday. But the engine does not run on kerosene. It coughs and fouls and dies. Kerosene is too heavy. It pulls instead of flashing at the spark. The engine wants a fuel that vaporizes instantly and explodes hundreds of times a minute. The light fraction, the first thing off the still, the wild stuff that took his eyebrows. The waste is the fuel. He draws off a jar from the pit tanks. They drain the kerosene from the engine and put the light stuff in instead. It nearly kills them both. It detonates. A backfire that singes them. A rod nearly through the casing. The rawest head is too wild even for the engine. One fuel is too heavy, the other too wild. The answer is a cut between the heavy kerosene and the violent head. Light enough to flash, not so light it explodes. He does not need a new liquid. He needs the exact window, the way he once found it for kerosene. They tune the still lower and chase the boundary run after run, jar after jar. They blow a piston. They choke the engine dead a dozen times. Then they hit the window. A clear, light, eager liquid, lighter than kerosene, that flashes true. It drives the engine in a smooth hammering roar neither of them expected to hear. He names it plainly: a burning spirit from rock. Petrol, gasoline. He patents it before the engine has stopped turning. Now the choice: Edric wants the fuel tied to his engines exclusively. One partner, one product. The narrow road, the safe road, the future built slow and clean in theirs. Mirren wants it sold to everyone, every engine builder, every tinkerer, the whole roaring market to come. Sell it to everyone, Edric says quietly, and you do not build the future. You arm it. You hand a flask of fire to every man who wants to race you. Mirren taps the number the wide road earns. It has more zeros than he has ever seen. He chooses the wide road. He chooses everyone. He tells himself it is strategy. That being the fuel under all of it is safer than being chained to one man. It is true. It is not the whole truth, and the small cold part of him knows it. He chooses everyone because everyone is more, and more is the thing he cannot stop reaching for. Edric does not argue past that one sentence. He goes back to his engine, and the silence he leaves is loud in the office for years to come. The wide road pays as Mirren promised, instantly and enormously. Every engine builder drinks his fuel, and only his, because no one else cuts it right. The waste he burned in a pit becomes the most wanted liquid in the country. The bottleneck moves again. This time it is on the road. He pulls oil from wells and pushes fuel to a nation, all of it in barrels on wagons and rail cars. And the rail cars, on every line that matters to him, belong to Cyrus Kane. Kane owns the road itself. He does not have to be clever. He only has to wait at the toll gate. The freight rate on oil goes up, then up again. A fat slice of every barrel sold, straight into Kane's pocket. Holloway, still sore from the claws, whispers to Kane in the dark, the money and the road, leaning on him together. He cannot fight Kane on rails. He will never own a railway by next spring. So he stops fighting the thing offered and looks at the why beneath. Why must his oil go by rail at all? Because freight moves in containers hauled by other men. But his oil is not a crate. It is a liquid. And a liquid flows if you give it a channel. He has known that since he lay at his creek dam when he was 7 years old. Inside the works, oil moves from still to condenser to tank without a bucket on a slope. If oil flows through pipe across his yard, no law of nature forbids it flowing across a county. A pipe, not a railway, a river of his own making, through ground Kane does not own. It has never been done at that distance. And the doing is a fortnight of failures stacked end to end. First the joints, cheap wooden pipe with iron hoops weeps at every seam. He moves to wrought iron pipe, and's cut with matching threads, screwed section to section. Every length one continuous iron vein. It cost more. It holds. Second, the hills. Gravity carries oil downhill and not 1 inch up. So he builds pumping stations along the line, a boiler and a pump at each. Steam again. Each station takes the oil and shoves it onward under pressure over the next rise. Station to station, the oil climbs country it could never have flowed across on its own. Third, the cold. The first hard frost, the line slows and the heavy oil thickens. So he sends only the lighter fractions down the iron and warms the oil at the stations. When the first long line runs, the oil flows from wells to railhead without one of Kane's cars. A barrel by Kane's rail costs what Kane chooses. A barrel through his pipe costs pennies. The pipe does not cut Kane's rate. It makes Kane's rate irrelevant. The thing Kane had his hand around, he is rooted around entirely. The way water roots around a stone. He never beats the strong man at the strong man's game. He changes the game. Kane does not go quietly. Mirren hears the shape of his plan through her network. Kane means to make the pipe fail publicly. Fire a station, cut a length, spill the oil. Something frightening enough to put in every paper. Pipe is folly. Oil belongs on the safe rails. He does not wait to be hit. He shapes where the blow will land and who will be holding the match. Earth banks around every station so burning oil pools inside them and cannot spread. Fire breaks between stretches so a flame would find nothing to carry it onward. Heavy iron gate valves at intervals so any breach can be sealed off in a few turns of a wheel. And where Kane has bought men, they leave them in place and feed them what Kane wants to hear. While his own trusted men, and in some cases men of the law Mirren has quietly brought in, watch unseen. When it comes on a cold night at an eastern station, exactly as she said it would. Kane's men move to fire the station under the eyes of witnesses the young man placed. Caught in the act with the bribe money still on them, and Kane's own go-between among them. The valves seal the breach span, the fire banks pen what little burns. A night's repair, no more. The thing Kane meant to do to the pipe does to Kane. It is in every paper within the week. The great railway baron caught hiring arsonist. Kane's name, 30 years in the building, cracks in a fortnight. Public trust bleeds out. When Kane's shares fall, The young man buys quietly through brokers, then openly. Share after share, while Kane is too busy fighting for his name to hold the line. He buys the railway out from under Kane at prices Kane's own sabotage drove down. 60 parts in 100 of the road that was meant to strangle him. Kane keeps an office, and a fraction, and the wreckage of his reputation. The road is his. For the first time, it is not a single clever thing. It is a chain. Wellhead to lamp, ground to engine. There is no step in Arkan's oil that does not pass through his hand. The railway was bought with vast borrowed money. He is in debt past anything he could have dreamed at 12. He has an enemy in Kane who will hate him until he dies. And Holloway is no friend either. And a third cost. He has become very, very large. Past a certain size, a private man is a power. The country now depends on decisions made by one hand for its light, its fuel, its freight. In the capital, a folder is opened on a quiet desk. A stranger reads it slowly. This is no longer a company, he says to the quiet room. One man holds the nation's light, its fuel, and its roads. That is a power answerable to no one. And a power answerable to no one is the state's affair. He does not hear the man say it. He is receiving word from the south. Past the edge of the maps, brought by men who have seen it, oil. Not seeps, but lakes of it under the sand. Reserves so vast his whole empire looks like a boyhood puddle. 50 times what he holds, a prize a man like him cannot ignore. He turns his men and his mortgaged fortune toward the south, ignoring Miran's silence. He is one man, and he is about to be stretched across half the earth. The desert is everything the men said and more. Black lakes on the surface of the sand. For a moment, standing over the first great seep, he feels the old pure joy magnified 1,000 times. Then the hard lesson lands. Here everyone knows what oil is. The land belongs to a prince, and the great powers of the world have already sent their agents to court him. He is not the only giant here. He is one of several, the foreigner, the newcomer. Here for the first time the tool that wins is not the still or the pipe or the clever claws. It is the thing the boy never had to learn. How to make a powerful man choose you. First the craft. His northern process drinks water and burns wood, and the desert is neither. So he redesigns everything. Air-cooled condensers. The oil's own heavy fraction burned to fire the boilers. Pipelines longer than any at home. At the coast, ships built to be barrels. Then the play. The powers offer the prince rent for the oil to carry home. He offers the prince refineries here in his own country. So the black becomes finished wealth that flows through his land, not merely out of it. The prince gets the visible empire, his name beside the young man's. The young man keeps the process and the trade. The invisible key beneath the glitter. The strongest foreign agent tries a bribe of raw gold, enough to drown the offer. He does not match the bribe. He looks at what the prince actually wants. Not gold. He has gold. He wants to remain a ruler, not a puppet. Take their gold, and you are owned. Build with me, and you are armed. The prince sends the foreign agent away. He builds with the young man. The south is won. Tankers begin to cross the sea to distant ports. The empire is no longer national. It straddles the world. And the price is the thing he does not let himself count until it is too late. He is present nowhere fully because he is trying to be present everywhere. The telegram reaches him in the desert, days old before it is in his hand. It is from Miran, and it is short, because a telegram is dear. The government has acted. A formal proceeding opened against the Vorn Empire by the state itself. Drafted, she says, to exactly his shape. Aimed at the one man who holds all of it. He stands in the heat with the day-old paper trembling in his hand. While he crossed an ocean to take the largest prize on earth. The one enemy he cannot outbuild has finished the law with his name on it. At home, behind his turned back. He races back across weeks of ocean, useless. Feeling the empire wobble the whole voyage while he can do nothing but stand at a rail. By the time he reaches the capital, the case is already moving in the paneled rooms. Within a day he understands he has walked into a fight whose rules he cannot bend. He cannot patent his way out of a law. He cannot lay a pipe around a courtroom. He cannot buy the state, because the state is not selling. It is the one power in Arkan larger than he is, and it has finally decided to use that size. The man who wields it is Sale, the state's prosecutor. The strangest opponent he has ever faced. Sale does not hate him. Sale wants nothing for himself. He is a careful, quiet, relentless man who believes one simple thing. That no single person should hold an entire nation's light and fuel and roads. And he has the whole weight of the state behind that belief. There is nothing to outthink, because he is not being clever. There is nothing to buy, because he has no appetite for gain. And worse, Sale does not need to invent a case. He reads back every brilliant move ever made. Everything the young man was proudest of becomes a charge against him. The patent called the foundation of a monopoly. the legal wall behind which he shut every rival out. The Holloway clause, no longer a clever survival, but a financier swallowed and a market seized. The pipe, proof he would root around any check on his power. The railway, proof he meant to own the very roads of the nation. Every move that won him the war is now sworn evidence the war should never have been allowed. His strength has become the case against him. His completeness the very thing the law forbids. And the witnesses are the past he left behind, coming back one face at a time. Marcus, old and bitter, telling how the Vaughan boy took his land for a debt. Holloway, the wounded partner, describing how he was trapped by a clause and held to a secret. Kane, disgraced but vicious, swearing the young man drove him from his own railway. And behind them a long line of smaller men he barely remembers passing on his climb. Little refiners he undersold, drillers he bought out, men whose modest businesses his chain crushed. He never saw them. He was looking at the summit above them. They saw him. And now, one after another, they take the stand. And the room fills with the wreckage he left behind. All of it true. None of it kind. But the blow that lands hardest is not from any enemy at all. It is from Edric. He is called. And the young man does not believe he will do it until he is in the chair. They made gasoline together. It was the best work of his life since the first clean flame. Edric takes the stand and he does not lie and he does not rage. He tells the truth quietly, the way he told it in the office the day he stopped coming. How the fuel was taken to everyone and the new age bound to one pair of hands. How the openness that should have belonged to all of them became one more thing men rented. Then Edric says the thing the young man will hear for the rest of his life. He says it not as revenge, but as a principle he holds dearer than their friendship. Progress should not belong to one man. He did not invent the future. He fenced it. And a thing that great should not have a fence around it with one name on the gate. It is worse than Holloway's greed and Kane's hatred, because there is no greed in it. Edric gains nothing. He testifies because he believes it is right. The unbearable part is that the man who once shared his fire is the one saying under oath that he betrayed it. Mirren finds him after that day and lays out the last choice. There is still a way to survive, she says. Not to win. Winning is gone. Go to the state before the verdict. Break the empire yourself into separate companies. Give the appearance of competition restored. Lose the monopoly as a name. Then she lowers her voice. Keep a hidden hand in each piece, quietly still answering to him. Break it up. Save the substance or refuse and dare the court to shatter the whole chain. It is the same choice he has faced his whole life. Control against more. Only now, for the first time, the move runs against him. To survive, he must give away the visible thing and keep the invisible one. The exact trait he forced on Holloway, on the prince, on Kane. Every part of him that climbed out of the cursed field wants to refuse. He has never once given back a single link he built. The chain is his, he forged it. The pride that dug the first well rears up, and the pride is what does it. He cannot make himself bow in time. He delays, he argues, he fights every clause. He tells himself the empire is too necessary to be broken. The court will see reason. While he holds his chin up, the verdict comes. There is the hinge of his whole life turning the wrong way at last. The refusal that won him everything against men who wanted a peace is the refusal that destroys him against a state that wants only to prove no man may hold the whole. The court rules against him completely. The Vaughan Empire is to be broken apart by order of the state. Wells from works, works from pipe, pipe from railway, each torn from the next. Set up as separate things, so no one hand can ever again hold them all. For the first time since he was a boy at the seep, there is a problem in front of him that building cannot solve. They make him take the empire apart with his own hands, and he counts it going down. The way he once counted it going up. Only now every number is smaller than the last. 8 lesser companies rise where one empire stood. His name is scrubbed from every gate, replaced with bland new names. The great monopolist brought low. That is the story every newspaper prints, and the crowds cheer. It is also, he realized, assigning the empire away, not the only story that could be told. A thing broken into pieces is still made of the same pieces. The law forbids the chain. It does not forbid a man from being a quiet partner in every link. That is the crack in the wall, and he is still enough of the boy at the seep to find it. While he publicly bows, he does the last clever thing he will ever do, and he does it in the dark. He does not walk away from the 8 companies. He takes a piece of each. Not a controlling piece, that would be the chain again. A quiet piece. A share below the line that draws attention. A placeman on that board. A loan on terms that bind a third company to him without his name appearing anywhere. Through Mirren, through brokers, through men of straw, he threads himself into all 8 of the pieces they cut. Separately, invisibly, each holding lawful and small on its own. Only when you lay them all together do they add up to the truth, The same hand still on all of it. The state broke the chain into 8 rings. He is the wire running through all 8. The move that won every war of his life, run for the last time and turned inside out. He has given away the visible thing. He has kept the invisible thing. And it should feel like victory. It does not. And Mirren is the one who says why. She comes to him after the last paper is signed. She looks at him a long moment and speaks flat as a closed ledger. You have won the money. You have lost the thing you started for. He wants to argue, and he cannot. Because she is right. What is he now? Not a maker. He has not drawn a still or cut a fraction in years. Not a builder. The empire he built is rubble, and what he does in its place is not building. It is collecting. He sits behind 8 companies he does not openly own. He takes his quiet percentage. He moves his hidden pieces on a board. Lucrative, bloodless. Nothing like the thing that lit him up when the black first caught fire on a stick. Mirren sees it before he does. She has always seen the thing first. She comes into the office one morning, and she does not sit down. I came to work for a man who was building something, she says. I stayed because watching you build was the most interesting thing I ever did. That man was worth keeping books for. This man does not build. This man milks. You sit in the dark and squeeze old work through other men's hands and call it winning. I will not spend the rest of my life counting a dead man's percentage. He has no answer, because there is no figure he can show her that argues with it. She gathers her things. She does not soften it at the door. When it closes, the richest man in Arkan is alone on a summit that officially does not exist. He closes the private books after she goes, and the silence she leaves is the loudest thing in the office. Into that silence comes a small thing he had forgotten about himself. His hands are restless, not for the ledgers. They are sick of the ledger. Restless the way they were when he was a boy with a creek to dam and a stick to dip. The smell of metal and oil on his fingers wakes something under a year of cold. The maker is not dead. He has only been sleeping under a pile of money. Then, on one of his invisible errands, he sees a light in a workshop window. The wrong color, not the warm gold of a kerosene flame. A harsh, steady bluish-white light, coming from no fire at all. He stops. He has not stopped for anything in a year of counting shares. Inside, a young man barely more than a boy, in a shop that is a glorious mess. Wires everywhere. Jars of acid with metal plates giving off a faint fizz. The boy is making light without burning anything. A wire glowing in a glass bulb. Fed by current he draws from his jars, burning steady and clean. The boy is filthy, then broke and burning-eyed. And he talks about the current the way the young man once talked about the seep. The townsfolk, he says cheerfully, think he is wasting his life on a useless toy. A useless toy, a boy everyone has written off, ruining things in a shed. Chasing a thing that makes light without fire. It is the whole of his own life looking back at him. Same shed, same mess, same scornful neighbors, same fire in the chest. Once it was a poison puddle that would burn. Now it is a glowing wire that does not need fire at all. The boy's name is Purse, and he asks the stranger if he knows anyone who might fund the work. The old rich stranger understands the things at once, and they will not separate. This boy and his glowing wire are the future. This cold, clean light will one day put out every kerosene flame in Arkan, including the 8 shadow companies worth of flames that are the whole of his hidden fortune. The next age is knocking at his door, the way Edric once did. Word comes that week that Edric has died, quietly, an old man in a workshop of his own, having given his engines freely to a world that took them and never made him rich. The man who said progress should not belong to one man, lived his life by it, died with clean hands. The old man sits with the news, and with the choice on the same table. He can crush Purse, buy his patents and bury them, or close every door until the shed starves. He has done versions of this to better men than Purse through the hidden network. Or he can do the thing the waking maker in him makes toward. Fund Purse openly. Give him the wire, the schooling, the years, and step back. Let the new age be born free, even knowing it is the age that buries his own. This is the question the whole of his life has been walking toward. Not whether he can win, but what he is at the bottom. Whether anything of the boy with the slate survived the climb. He stands in the workshop a long time, and he makes his choice. And it is the truest thing he will ever do, and the saddest, because it is exactly who he is. He does not crush Purse, and he does not set him free. He funds him through a structure that puts the spark in his own hand. Purse signs eagerly, gratefully, papers he does not fully read, giving the controlling interest in everything he invents to a quiet holding that is, at the bottom of its layers, the old man's. He will not bury the future. He will own the age that ends the age of oil. The lamp dies, he holds the bulb. Whichever way the world turns, the money still empties into him. Purse lights the city is on schedule, the kerosene lamps go dark. The old man is nowhere in the papers, and everywhere in the ledgers. He is the richest man in Arkan. His name is on nothing. His mother is dead and tall, and Edric. And Mirren is gone. He set out to beat the thing that killed his family. To beat it, he had to become it. The black blood itself. Under everything, warming no one. In the signless office at the end of it all, his hands drift to the old bench in the back, and he takes up a stub of charcoal, and on a flat scrap of slate he begins, for no reason at all, to draw. Not a chain of companies. Not a hidden share. Just a small, clever mechanism. A thing that might solve a little problem no one asked him to solve. Drawn the way he drew at the creek when he was 7. The empire was sold, and the name was erased, and the people were lost. But the boy who crouched at the seat was never quite spent, and that is the whole story of it.